Next up, we're going to have Joanne Douglas.
Hi. So I do work here at Bartram's Garden, and I'm just going to get right into it because I know it's real quick. So I'm going to cheat also. Over the past 14 years or so, I've worked in the environmental field. So I've worked for large NGOs, I've worked for the state, I've worked for local grassroots groups, and have been a science teacher and continue to work in education. And I would say over that whole time period, there was a turning point for me where I realized that I was really doing a lot of deprogramming and unlearning of what it meant to be an environmentalist and just to be a good member of the ecosystem that we're a part of. Basically, my vocabulary had to change. So for example, conservation. Understanding that conservation actually has very deep racist roots. It was, a lot of our national parks and things were set aside based on eugenics and trying to keep things really pure, getting indigenous folks out, keeping black people out. Things like our environmental curriculum. We're taught in schools that we're kind of top of the food chain, that the environment is there for us to kind of control, and it's basically just beneath us. So I wanted to get away from some of those kinds of things. Also looking at our environmental policy, and some of our laws, they have some positive outcomes like the Clean Water Act, but when you really look at some of the language that's in there, like designating waterways as fishable or swimmable, what does that mean? They say fishable, but it's fishing for sport. It's not necessarily, the standards aren't so that you can fish to consume it. Or when you say swimmable, it's swimming for recreation. What about washing? What about, being fully submerged in the water for ceremonies, things like that. So I just got to a point where I realized that though, yes, we want to, nature's good, we want to keep the environment healthy and safe, who are we keeping it safe for? Is it to keep a dominant culture dominant, or is it to really get to the root of it and make sure that we're all, being a part of the system in the way that we are supposed to? So through that, I'll say I started working, I was lucky enough to find a job here where the leadership really trusts me to kind of run with those ideas and really look deeper into things. So I'm here to build a watershed curriculum that I guess takes humans and decenters us from, oh gosh, I need my paper again. It just decenters humans, okay? So I have a few years to really go over that, dig deep into that, see what that means. We're creating pathways here for youth to really self-determine how they interact with the world around them, and just have a space and a place to be involved civically, but also just really take time to look around them and see where their place is in Southwest Philadelphia. So we have Sankofa Farm. We just started the River Internship, where students will be working for 6 weeks in the summer. They build boats in the middle school that is over here, Richard Allen. And then over that summer program, they spend time doing water testing, really getting to know what it is that's inside of the water that they see every day or they pass every day. They're also learning culturally how their cultures have connections to water, and it's not just, it's not something that they're disconnected from, it's not something that they are ignorant to or doesn't belong to them or they can't be a part of, but that they have deep roots and cultures that really involved a lot of water and waterways. So from that, I will say, I do get a lot of people that say, how do we get more involved? We've got the elections coming up. Everybody's fighting over everything. It's like climate change, is it real? Is it not real? What do we do? We've heard a lot about the Green New Deal. So the Green New Deal, that's really just ideology and principles to stand by, but where the work really has to happen is locally. It has to happen on the ground with us. If it doesn't happen there, we're gonna be left out. So for example, my alma mater, I went to UPenn. They have a waste reduction and recycling report that just came out that says that they have minimized waste. But really what they've done, they've not minimized waste overall, they've diverted it from landfills to incinerators. Where are those incinerators? In Chester, Pennsylvania. So if we're not really, if we're not really getting in there and we're not the ones writing the laws and the policies and determining what happens, things are just gonna stay the same, okay? So I would say get involved, find organizations that are Black and Brown run. Oh, time's up. Black and Brown run. Yeah, that's it. Find that.